test, test. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Test, test. Grab me.
You ever go down in Mapton by any chance? About suicide guy with the nose. Yeah, cool. I thought
he testified. So he was hanging on the rail of the bridge and grabbed and cuffed him. Said later in court, she had no health issues. Later in court, he said, they asked us, what got you there? He was on the stand and he says, and then the hand of Jesus reached down and saved me. And he looks at the jury, and the jury's like very emotional.
I'll get ready to interview.
Spiritual testimony. He goes, no, seriously, the hand of Jesus literally saved me. And they didn't get it yet. And then the prosecutor had to clarify, can you please clarify what you mean by it? He goes, well, I heard the officer's name that saved me was Jesus. So the hand of Jesus saved me. And the jury started cracking. That was probably one of the funniest life savings I've ever done. I've done a few, but that was by far the
I actually remember a few things from that. That was like 15, 20 years ago.
I'm not teaching that much now, but schools are just now embracing it.
Yeah.
Test 1, 2, test 1, 2, test, test, test. Test 1, 2, test 1, 2. Where did our sound guy go? Are you guys my photographers?
Yes.
How you doing? What's your name?
I'm Alexander.
Alexander?
Avery.
Avery?
Avery, yeah.
Nice to meet you guys. Don't feel shy. If you guys want to come up to the front and do the old paparazzi, because you want to get shots of your student body, because I'll be moving around a lot. I won't be staying still, so I'll actually... Yeah, sure.
Here, I'll get out your way.
Okay, good morning. My name is Rod.
We'll be moving around, so just so you know, so don't feel like you have to stay here. You're not going to interrupt me a bit. Okay?
Before I do that, I would ask you to please remove your earbuds, make sure your cell phones are turned off or on vibrate. And then at this time, I'd like to ask you to stand and join me.
Test, test, test. Sounds. Yeah. I got it on. I'm like, I can't hear anything.
Welcome to the West Valley High School student body, Spokane Valley High School student body, who has joined us in the middle, and then via live stream, the students from District Hill High School. At this time, I'd like to introduce and over. He spent 30 years here for the point man on the entry team. He began his own consulting business in 1986 and has since taught almost 700,000 professionals and students from around the country in the areas covering surviving the active lethal threat, workplace violence prevention, gang
real quick, before we get started today, this assembly is going to go by very quickly. There's going to be a lot of, I'm going to ask you guys some questions during it. If you want to answer the questions, feel free to raise your hands. I'll obviously pick on you to do that. But I'm going to ask for one thing during this assembly, and that is very simply your attention. This issue is very important to me because my team has pursued active shooters. We've neutralized them. I've seen the they've left behind. I've seen the students that have died. My son has been in an active shooting at a high school. My brother has been in an active shooting on a bus. So I've got now, if I can't keep your attention during this next hour, if I see you screwing around with one of your friends, if you keep outgoing somebody, if you're playing on a video game on your phone, I'm going to make eye contact with you one time. You'll know that I'm looking at you because the assembly will know that I'm looking at you as well. If I have to do it twice, I'm just from the assembly. Well, it's that important. It really is. No offense, but I've been shot at, I've shot back, I've survived 33 years. But you are the factor in these active shootings. It's your population, the students in this room. You're the ones that are getting, in these shootings, are dying at the highest fatality rates. It's not the staff, it's you. So today we're going to do something that, honestly, your own toolkit. We're actually going to tell you what you have the right to do if something like this were to happen. Really, not just in, where else are these shootings occurring? I was just in California, 1,000 Oak Bar. A man that did my sound for the auditorium for Florida School District texted me at 1:30 in the morning while I'm in another state to tell me I've just joined an elite club of fathers whose daughters have survived an active shooting. My daughter was one of the few that jumped out of the window 2 stories high. So you have to understand that today's about you. I'm going to ask you guys questions about what you would do because honestly, it doesn't matter what I would do. The question is, do you know what to do to survive these events? So the first thing you need to know is this. Lockdown is something that your school district goes through for a reason. And you might not have told us now. Lockdown is the #1 life-saving tactic. Out of all the tactics combined to survive an active shooting event, lockdown is the #1 life-saving tactic. First of all, if a bad in the main office area of this school, isn't it true the rest of the school is safe, if you think about it? A bad guy can only be at one place at one time. So we now know from empirical evidence, 99% of you are actually safe. If you are, what is the term lockdown? What does that mean you should be doing? By the way, if you're not near the shooter, if you're near the shooter, I'm going to give you a totally different advice. But if you're not near the shooter, if all you hear is staff, this is a lockdown, and that's all you hear, and staff open their doors, what should you be doing? By the way, get into a classroom, then what? You're in the classroom, now what? You just going to stand there by the front door? What?
Run to the door.
By the way, running to the door is pretty critical, and here's why. The faster you get into lockdown, the more lives will be saved. Literally, we've literally got the evidence to show that. The faster you get to the lockdown, that's why if you guys get an announcement of a lockdown, you shouldn't be doing this. And texting, because research shows that the average person is looking at their phone 150 times a day. During the lockdown is not the time to be looking at your phone. Trust me, your phone will not save you. In these recent shooting events that just happened at Parkland, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting, did you know that the 16-year-old boy opened the door for his classmates and he held the door open for numerous as he was shutting the door, he was shot. And he died. This kid died saving his friends. He knew that lockdown would save their lives. By the way, it would have saved his too. Of shutting that door, you obviously want to be aware, where is the threat? You see, the other reason that lockdown is working so effectively is no shooter to date, not breached, blocked, or not if it's been locked or barricaded, by the way, barricading, if you had to barricade the classroom, let's say the door swung in, all right? You run into the classroom, you shut it, the door swung in. How do you barricade this door? Barricade it with. By the way, desks. What's the biggest desk in the classroom? Guess whose desk I'm using? Sorry, teachers. Your desk, I'm going to dump it upside down and I'm going to press it against that door. It doesn't matter if stuff gets all over the place. Someone to hurt or kill you. By the way, if you run into the infamous forbidden staff lounge, did you know that staff lounge and it's got a lock on the door? Did you should lock eat all the food in the refrigerator they have, and then take the refrigerator and do it. Do you realize that this room that endangers your life, we're to do whatever you need to do to live? Students, the shooter didn't have a way out, so these boys jumped up on a table, pushed the ceiling out, crawled in away and survived. Isn't it? At Virginia Tech, 75-year-old Auschwitz survivor, Mr. Labrusco, blocks the door of his body. He literally presses himself against it, and he yells for his students on the second floor. He held the as he gained entry. By that time, the students run to the back window, and they 20. I got to consult Virginia Tech post-massacre. 32 those kids jumped out of. I looked at the window and went, "You got to be kidding me." Do you know what they said while they were at that window? They said, "Do you think you should jump towards the oak?" And the other kid says, "Why?" And he says, "Because if we hit the tree, it'll soften our blow." You guys are watching way too much Jumanji. Oh, I'm serious. It's a solid oak tree. If you jump towards it and you bounce off the limbs, you're not just going to get up and go, "That was cool." Not going to happen. But can you imagine talking about this while a killer is now coming into your room? 4 of the students at that window, by the way, this is your toolkit. I'm giving it to you. We're going to teach you exactly the same things your staff has been taught. But we're teaching you because sometimes your staff isn't going to be with you. You're by yourselves. So all of a sudden they had a decision to make. Do I jump out the window? By the way, bad guys coming through the door. It's your call. Jumped out the window. One of them broke his leg. By the way, didn't even faze him. He had a compound fracture in his leg. Bus that was pulling up campus on the bus. He gets off and walks himself into a from one of the in this country's history. So, 3 students were too afraid to jump. They didn't think they'd make it. All 3 were found killed by the window. It's a toolkit. I can't tell you what to do. I can only give you the tools. But I will tell you this, there's a reason your staff is practicing. Practicing because staff are dying for you. And threw it in front of the shooter, killed students, while the students ran and fled and survived. He died. We don't want any of you to get injured or die, which is this tool. Understand, it's your call. When your teachers get into a classroom, the key to the classroom getting in is locking that door. By the way, you can barricade it, but what if this time you open the door out, the door swings in, you can't lock it. How would you secure that door? Think about it. What could you do to secure that door? By the way, you could pull up the handle, absolutely. Or I can take this belt that I'm wearing, ladies, purses, straps, leather, nylon, backpacks, hook the handle to the door, and have a few people pulling on it. No shooter to date has breached a locked door. It is critical to understand that. Because it means that if you're in lockdown, your chances for survival just went through the ceiling. High. But you've got to think when you leave this assembly, when you go back to your classrooms, by the way, staff, take the time to talk to your kids when you go back and ask them, what would we do in this room? What could we use to barricade? What else could you use to barricade that door if the door swings out? If you have a folding chair, you need to know that it will brace the door. But at the end of the day, you've got to follow instructions. When lockdown happens, the key is lockdown. Let's say one of you ran into a closet, a broom closet, and the closest thing you could find. You run into the closet, now it's the bad guy. I'm just curious, what do you think you have the right to do to the bad guy? Listen carefully, because your parents are going to hear this tonight. Make sure you invite your parents. Talk to them about the same thing. We're also giving them a little more information of how. Know that your parents, adults in this society right now, are more afraid to have this conversation than you are. Isn't that interesting? In fact, I'm curious, how many of you in this room have thought about this? You've thought, what would I do if there was a shooting in my school? Can I see your hands, please? By the way, staff, please take a look. We're finding across the country it's 98% of students are saying, this is on my mind. I want a plan, and today you're getting it. So understand, staff responsibilities during a lockdown. Their first responsibility is to open the door. Here's why. 90% of all active shootings in America in K-12 are happening during passing periods. Why do you think that is? By the way, the guy up here in the middle is doing it. He's going, duh, everyone's in the hallway. You're right. You're exactly right. By the way, which means what? That if in fact it happens during that time, the rest of you are going to implement a different plan unless you're near a classroom and not near the shooter. In other words, staff is going to open their door. They're going to tell you to get inside. By the way, once you get in that room, did you know that you have a voice? At Virginia Tech, staff was trained to teach duck and cover. And you're going to find out why that's horrible. 2 of the staff members actually saw the shooter coming. They actually opened their doors, saw the shooter coming, and then they shut the door for every student to get on the floor. And they did. College students, 20, 22, 18, 6'2", 200 pounds, 5'6", 120 pounds, and they did exactly as they were told. Hold on a second. Do you have the right to ask why you're being put on the floor? Yeah. Why are you putting us on the floor? Well, because there's a bad guy coming down the hallway with 2 guns. And we're in a classroom with no door locks. Did you know that all 5 classrooms at Virginia Tech, not one of them had a door lock? And they put their kids in duck and cover, and 32 people died. Literally because they did exactly as they were told. You know what I love about your generation, and I hate about it as well? You guys are a double-edged sword. You've got the most powerful voice of a generation we've ever seen in the history of our country. It's amazing. You guys challenge everything, which can be awesome, and as a parent, it can be a pain in the butt. I had a young man come up to me after one of these assemblies. He said, okay, so I was listening to the assembly, and you said active shooters are stimulated by sight and sound. By the way, listen, active shooters are stimulated by sight and sound. If they see you, come towards you. It's pretty simple. So he says, I'm trapped in the classroom, but I'm hiding in the closet. Shooter comes in. Yeah? I take my phone, I activate the ringer, and I chuck it across the room because it's going to stimulate him to track my phone while it's ringing. While he's doing that, bam, I run out the door. What do you think of my plan? By the way, you know what I love about this kid? He was listening. He said, they're stimulated by sight and sound. And then he said, what do you think of my plan? I said, well, can I give you a couple of tips? And he goes, sure. It's true that once you set the ring on the phone, as soon as you press it, isn't it going to already ring in your hand in the closet? And he goes, by the time you throw it, isn't it true the shooter is actually going to know the phone's being thrown from, which means you shooter to your closet. He goes, Oh, dude. Let me get back to you on this one. And he walks away. What I love about this kid, a young man that produced phone, guaranteed. $10 doing it. You guys. Or windows next to the doors. Can I see your? Guess what you put those windows for them? Here's a good question for you. What attracts an active shooter to you? Sight and sound. If you leave them open, they're going to look. Oh, there you are. So if you don't cover the windows, and just so you know, if I were you, I would go back from this assembly and I would say, why don't we cover the windows now? In other words, set up the piece of paper taller and wider than your window. Set it up now. Tape it to the left or the right of the window. Leave it there all year until lockdown occurs. At the moment that you hear lockdown, staff brings you in the room, locks the door, you grab the paper, you stick it, and then you stick it over the window. Shouldn't you be doing that now rather than later? Crisis is not the time to be crisis planning, you guys. Trust me. I knew what I was going to do the first time I ever got shot at. I didn't wait to get shot to figure out what I was going to do. I used to rehearse it in my mind. I used to rehearse in my mind, what would I do if someone stabbed me? And then it happened, and my mind took over, and I lived because I had a plan. But do you understand that your plan has got to be implemented beforehand? And by the way, I certainly don't want you leaving this assembly all paranoid. You should be leaving this assembly empowered. I don't want you walking through the hallways like this. That was a really good assembly, man. What are you doing? I don't need you. Because you need information if you do that, okay? At the end of the day, I want you thinking about covering those windows. And just know, you want to make sure that you cover the exterior windows. Oh, watch the exterior windows if you can. Get outside. And if I see paper, what else? Blinds, what else? Shirts, sweaters, jackets. You pick. It's your tool chest. I won't be there, and by the way, the chances the officers in the back won't be there because research shows that in an active shooting event in the K-12 arena, we are not the first ones to get there. You are. You are. Me. Minimal time frame for a shooting right now, according to research, is minimum 2 minutes before it arrives on scene, unless you have a school resource officer. If you do, but 2 minutes is 120 seconds of shooting before anyone gets there. So you have to have a plan in this room. My son had a plan. My son used to walk up to me all the time, ever since he was 8 years old, and he would say, "Dad," so we're walking down the road. Yep. Guy comes up to mug us. Yep. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to stand on your left side or your right side? That's what my son asked me. At 10 years old, he asked me this. I went, my left side. He goes, "Is that because that's your strong side, is your right side, Dad?" I said, "Yeah. I'm a wrestler. I was a hand-to-hand combat instructor for 3 years. Fighting for me, unfortunately, is easy." So my son wanted to make sure he wasn't in my way, so he goes, "You want me to stand to your left, right?" I said, "No, my left, not right." "Right, Dad, your left." "No." I said, so we had this game. I'm walking down the road one day with my son. He's walking on my right-hand side, and I see him stop, let me to the left, and he keeps walking next to me. Guess what I just figured out my son did? I pull in, he goes, "Dad, stop. What if we saw inside that the kitchen door had been..." "What do you want me to do?" I said, "I want you to go to the neighbors." "Seriously, Dad?" "Yeah, son." "But why? I could help you." "Son, you probably are going to get in my way. I don't want to hurt you accidentally." He goes, "Oh, I didn't think about that, Dad. Thanks." He did this from the time he was 8. Any of you have brothers? crazy. But little did I know that my son, driving me crazy, was going to save his life. I'll tell you what he did. Responsibility to lockdown. By the way, everyone to the door wall side. Now watch carefully. The door wall side, not the corner 20 feet here. Watch. If this door to this class, if this leads into a room, and they're stacking 20 feet away opposite the door wall side. Everybody know what I'm talking about? This is the door wall side. This is a door. Wait. Parking where he breached a window, not a door. The shooter had access to everybody stacked up on the wall, 20 feet away, and the only way out was that door. Where would you rather be in this room? If you were trapped in a room, no exit from the room, would you rather be 20 feet away, having to rush to get to that exit with a guy with a gun standing between you and the exit, or, first name, or last name, sir? Mr. Brown, come on over here. Or, if a bad guy comes through that door, go ahead, Mr. Brown, if you would. You're still taller than me. Come on, okay? Where would you want to be? Here, inches from the only way out, or 20 feet away, having to fight to get out with someone with a gun. By the way, what else can I do from that door wall side? I can fight. Side note, can I have a desk? Can I take this chair and be waiting by that door? Yes or no? Mr. Brown's getting nervous. Can I wait here by this door with this chair? Yes. What if I have chemical products in the classroom? If the bad guy comes through the door, can I spray him with the chemical products? Yes or no? In other words, what can you do to that bad guy? Anything you want. Just so you know, according to law, it's not. According to law, according to Washington state law, anything, because he's trying to kill you. So we would rather you be by the door, by the way, staff, by the door, not 20 feet away anymore. Those days are done, and here's why. In the Parkland shooting, 18 out of 18 hits. 100% hit ratio on students that were away from the normal side. Third floor, 0 out of 13 hits on the third floor. All students were against the normal side. Your chances for survival are higher if you're waiting there in case you're trapped. But let's say we're not trapped. Let's say there's a glass window on this side. We think the shooter's getting closer. Can we go out this window, yes or no? Yeah. Can you break it, yes or no? Yeah. Yes, you can. By the way, thank you, Mr. Brown. Give him a hand, please. Just so you know. For those of you in this room that have not ever broken a window, for those of you that are in this room that have never broken a window, you're not going to be able to do it like this. Okay, guys, I'm going to break the window. We're going to get out of here. Everybody get back. Ah! Yeah, you've been watching way too much Kung Fu. You're going to bounce off the window, hit your head on the desk, and go unconscious. Then your friends are going to stand over you and go, well, that didn't work. Right. Then the next one of you is going to go, okay, leave him alone. I got a chair. Everybody get back. And you're going to run to the window and throw this chair. Don't be surprised if the chair bounces off the window and hits you in the head and knocks you out. Now your classroom is going to go, well, that's 2 down. What's the biggest object in that classroom? The desk. Whose desk? Teachers. Can you use it to break the window? Teachers in this room, let it go. Just let it go. Do you understand that you're the one that's got to make this decision? Lights on or off, your choice. Lights on or off? Interesting you guys say that. We've been telling you that for decades. And here's the theory. The theory was if you turn the lights off, what are you doing? You're hiding. How many of you can go to your classrooms right now, walk in, shut all the lights off, and you can still see each other? Right. How did that work for you with the lights off? Are you serious right now?
window. Because if the window is covered, the shooter can't see if the lights are on or off. Does that make sense? Be proactive. Quit buying into stuff that doesn't work. Me personally, I want the lights on. Right? Did you know that darkness breeds fear? A lot of you in this room probably love Halloween. But during a scary movie, guess what you told your friend? Shut the lights off. You didn't say turn the lights on when Jason walked in. You said shut them off. Why? You're trying to breed fear, right? On or off, it's your choice. But I will tell you this. I want them on because if I'm waiting by that door, I want to see exactly what I'm about to fight if I have to fight for my life. Keep everyone quiet. By the way, this is the most important piece right here. How quiet? This quiet. It's your life, guys. No offense. It's your life. If you start screwing around during a lockdown, you need to know that we're recommending that your school district start disciplining you. It's a violation of school policy. I was just in Arizona, and 3 young boys, and just so you know, it's almost always boys that do this, started screwing around during the lockdown. Started, yeah, isn't this funny? Yeah, like there's a shooter. They started screwing around. We could hear them clearly. I was so impressed when the principal of the school during the lockdown drill walked up, told all 3 to stand up, pulled them into his office, and suspended them immediately. Do you know that if you are allowed to continue talking during a lockdown, you are attracting the shooter to your room? You have to stop. Staff, no more teaching curriculum during a lockdown drill. If you can't give me 6 minutes of your time to practice to live, you're not serious about school safety. You have to make a choice to be quiet. No more kidding around. Please, I'm begging you. Unfortunately, we have videos of people that were loud and the shooter was drawn to them. You don't want to be that person. And by the way, be thinking about your plan B. If plan A is locked down and I get in that room and I'm hunkered down by the wall and I'm waiting and I don't hear a shooter and I don't see a shooter, that doesn't mean I should just relax. I want to be thinking, what would I do if? Would I go out the window? By the way, would I go into a second closet? Would I barricade the door, even though the door swung in and I can barricade it, I can lock it? Should I barricade it with everything I have? Yes. Everything you've got. Because 99% of you are actually going to live through this. That's the empirical evidence. 99% of you. The problem is that once it happens, a school will never be the same. The fact that so many of you are thinking about it and being honest about it is why we need to give you this information. I'm tired personally of seeing dead kids in America. I really am. I've seen too many. And I'm so thankful my son wasn't one of them. He wasn't one of them because of what he did. So, barricading is a lockdown. This young man is now a father of 2. He survived Virginia Tech. Just so you know, the shooter walked in his classroom, killed 75% of the people in the room, including the teacher. This kid gets wounded. He's giving himself first aid, calling 911, and now the shooter is coming back into his room. The shooter went in and out of 5 classrooms repeatedly. He just kept going in and out. But when he tried to get back into this classroom a second time, listen to what this young man did. While he's wounded, listen to what he did, and it saved his and the remaining students in his classroom, it saved their lives. His name is Derek Odell, and he was at Virginia Tech.
One of the witnesses to the massacre was a sophomore named Derek Odell. He was wounded in the arm by the gunman, and a short time ago, he told me his story. Derek, tell me what happened.
Well, basically, I was in Norris Hall, which is the place of the second shooting, and the gunman came into our class after he had fired maybe 10 rounds prior to that. And he came into our class, shot the person that was sitting next to me, shot our professor, and then I hit him in the desk, and then he proceeded to shoot everybody else in our class, practically. There were probably 15 to 20 people in our class, and he shot maybe 10 to 15 of them.
That must have been so terrifying for you.
It was truly just surreal, nothing to even describe.
What did you hear?
At first it sounded like hammers on the wall, on like concrete blocks, just construction work, but then once he entered our class and started shooting, it ended up to be way more surreal than I think I'd ever wanted my life to be.
And so you stayed under your desk?
Yes, until the gunman left our classroom.
Can you tell us anything about the gunman? What he looked like, what he said, what he was doing when he came into the room?
He was male, Asian descent, and he was about 6 feet tall, wearing a black leather coat and then a maroon hat. And he didn't say anything, which I found very unusual. He just started shooting people, and it's truly tragic.
What kind of weapons did he have? Did you see that?
It looked like he just had one handgun, like a 9mm handgun. He emptied maybe 8 gunshots into our classroom and then reloaded it while he was there, and emptied about another 8 gunshots.
When he left the room and you were able to get up, were there any other survivors in your classroom?
There were 2 more people who hadn't been shot that I could tell. And with their help, I had not even realized I had been shot until I had gotten up and I saw the blood on my arm. But with the 2 people who hadn't been shot, with their help, we helped to barricade the door to prevent them from coming back in.
Meanwhile, your classmates,
A lot of them are dead at that point, or almost dead.
and your professor,
I didn't see him, but it appeared that he got shot in the head.
what class was this?
This was a German class, introductory German.
After you kept him from coming back into the door, what happened after that?
Well, we had barricaded the door. I used my foot, I had tennis shoes on. And then he had come back after firing shots in other classrooms. And he proceeded to shoot the door, which was wooden. So bullets were hitting the door and almost coming through the door. So at that point, we got really scared that he might come back in and shoot the rest of us. But we managed to keep him out.
Do you hear what he said? He used his tennis shoe. I don't know if any of you have ever done this. I did it a lot as a kid. My brothers, I had 3 older brothers. They used to love chasing me around the house and beat me up. So I'd run from them, and then I'd run into a room, I'd shut the door, and I'd put my foot against the door. Have you ever done this? And then you hear them run into the door. It was a very satisfying feeling, I'm not gonna lie. Okay? That's what this kid did. That's all he did. He took his shoe, his tennis shoe, he stuck it against the door while he's been shot, and stops one of the worst killers in American history from getting back into the room. And he gave up. And do you know why no shooter today has breached the locked door or spends that time? It takes too much time. From the moment I go bang, guess who's coming? The cops. And they're not coming to talk to you, they're coming to stop you. So from the moment they fire their weapon, they're in a hurry, they're moving, they're constantly on the move because they're looking for the easiest targets. You got it? They're looking for the easiest targets. They're looking for those of you that are just going to drop to the ground and start bawling. That's what they're looking for, especially if you're in front of them. Don't give them that plan. Do anything. Into a ceiling, out a window, lock yourself in the bathroom. Do whatever you need to do, but be what we call a hard target. But here's the key. The most important slide today is this one. In the shootings that occurred in the 25-year study, 81% of the shooters told their friends they were going to do the shooting, and not one friend came forward to stop it. You are the solution to this problem in America. The cops in this room, the teachers in this room, we want to think we are, we're not. The solution is sitting in this room. It's you. Did you know that after the Parkland shooting, 600 students in the United States were arrested for threatening to bomb or shoot schools? 600 in 30 days. Guess who finally turned them in? You guys. You know why? Because you guys finally figured out if you don't start telling us, they're going to kill people you know. I had a young lady come forward after an assembly in Blue Ridge, Arizona, 16 years old. 3 days after the assembly, she waited 3 days to think about it. She knew of a school shooting plot that was going to occur at graduation ceremonies. That means your parents would have been there. She knew about it for 4 weeks. And she came forward after the assembly. And she reported the guy. We found out that the guy, by the way, the student, was on the FBI's watch list for school shooters. This was a credible threat. So credible of a threat that when the school graduated this last May, late May, I talked to the superintendent,
after our assembly. They had 40 police officers stationed throughout the graduation ceremonies. FBI snipers on the roof of their campus. And parents and anyone attending graduation had to go through TSA-style screening. This girl just stopped a massacre. Unbelievable. By the way, the power of your voice. I hope you never have to practice one thing I'm telling you today. But I will tell you this. If you know of someone that's got a weapon at this school and it shouldn't be here, you need to tell us. You have no idea what their intent is. I had a girl come up to me after this assembly in Dallas, Texas. She said, "Can I share a story with you?" I said, "Yes." She said, the girl came to our school one morning and she called over one of her really good friends and she called her over to the corner away from everybody else. And she said, "I want to show you something." And the friend says, "What?" She goes, "Just come here, I've got to show you this." So she takes her to a corner of the room, looks around, nobody's there. She pulls out of her pocket a .380 semi-automatic handgun. The girl sees the gun and goes, "Is that loaded?" And the girl says, "Yes." She goes, "Get it away from me." She goes, "What?" "Get it away from me. I don't want you or that gun near me for the rest of the day. I'm not getting expelled for you. I'm not getting arrested for you. Don't come near me." She walked away. The girl with this gun, by the way, 16-year-old girl with this gun, takes the gun and shows it to 5 more of her friends. Side note, we've all been young in this room. I know about the snitching rule, the narking rule. But boy, you better think twice on this one. Because you're not snitching to report a gun in the school. You're possibly saving someone's life. 5 more friends see it. A total of 6 students see this gun, and not one of them comes forward. So the girl's carrying the gun for the rest of the school day, and at the end of the school day, she walks up to a young girl on a school bus, fully loaded school bus. She walks to the back of the bus, walks indiscriminately up to a girl she doesn't know and says, "You're in my seat, get out." By the way, she's feeling powerful because she's got a gun, and no one's challenged her. And the girl looking at her says, "I've been sitting here for 5 minutes. If you wanted this seat, you should have been here 5 minutes ago." And the girl goes, "What did you say?" And she pulls the gun out of her sweatshirt, extends it at less than 3 feet, and fires 3 rounds into the chest of a 15-year-old student, killing her. All of the kids on the bus immediately start evacuating the bus. By the way, they're jumping out the windows. They're going out the evacuation hatches. They're going out the roof. Good idea? Yes. Why? They're near the shooter. You don't just lay there. The shooter drops her gun and flees the bus. She runs down the road. Law enforcement catches her. She's still in prison today. When the girl told me the story, I asked her, "Why are you telling me this story?" She goes, "Because it was me that she showed the gun to." I said, "What? Why didn't you tell someone?" And she said, "Because I really didn't think it would hurt me if I didn't." I said, "Did it?" She said, "Yes. The girl that she killed was my best friend." This girl now has to live the rest of her life knowing she knew a gun was in school and she did nothing about it, and her best friend died. You are the solution to this problem. You need to know. You are in this room. We just need you to partner with us. I don't care if you do it anonymously. I don't care if you leave a note. I don't care if you send a carrier pigeon. Let us know if there's a gun in the school, and here's why. You're going to save your friend's life. Every shooter arrested in a foil school shooting plot in this country, every single one, where you've stepped forward and stopped them, not one student has come back to commit an act of shooting. You just saved your friend's life. Charles Andrew Williams told 12 of his friends, and on the way to school, they stopped him at the Jack in the Box where they were having breakfast before they walked across the street to school. And they actually said, "Charles, stand up." And he said, "Why?" "We need to pat you down, bro." "Why?" "You're freaking us out with this school shooting stuff. Stand up." They grabbed his backpack, put it over here, and they patted him down in a Jack in the Box. And didn't find a gun. And then they gave him his backpack back. And he walks across the street, walks straight into the school, and opens fire, killing numerous people. They were right. They didn't stop him because they forgot to check the backpack. He's currently in prison until he's 66 years old. He was 16 at the time of the shooting. They recently interviewed him. He's in his mid-20s, and they asked him, "Is it true that you told 12 people about the shooting?" And he said, "Yes." Now listen carefully to this. They asked him, "Why?" And he said, I figured if I told 12 of the people closest to me, somebody would have turned me in to stop me from this outcome. And then they asked him, and what did it tell you when no one turned you in? And he said, no one loves me anyway. I might as well die. You're not snitching on your friend, folks. You're actually showing your friend you love them. Whether they get that or not, they'll figure it out over time. But not one shooter has come back, not one, and committed an act of shooting. And then there's the power of your voice during the event. Do not talk to a bad guy while they're shooting. You need to know it won't work. The only time is when they're not shooting. In all of these shootings, a bad guy was shooting. They started talking to him when he stopped. They started talking to him. Here in Moses Lake, Washington, the infamous Mr. Lang, the phys ed teacher, he was awesome. He got them to release some female hostages, and the shooter lowers his weapon, and then as soon as he did, bam, Mr. Lang tackles him. It's awesome. By the way, Taft, California, the security officer and the teacher got the student to lower his weapon, and as soon as he did, bam, they tackled him. Notice they didn't do this. All right, hand me the gun, Bob. Seriously? You're watching way too much Dr. Phil if you think that's going to work. If someone lowers a weapon after shooting people and you're within 3 feet, you better do something right now. It's going to be your only chance. The power of your voice is critical, but you've got to know when to talk and when not to. And during the shooting is not the time to talk. When there's a lull, when they start reflecting on what they're doing, but not during the shooting. If you're near the shooter, this is the #1 life-saving tactic. #1, running. By the way, it doesn't matter if I'm this close to the shooter. Running is the #1 life-saving tactic if you can see the shooter or hear the shooter. And here's why. It's been used in almost every active killer event in the world. Terrorist attacks. It's worked. And here's why. When you do hear gunfire, the first thing you're going to do is this. You're going to go into startle reflex. Let me give you an example. Hey! Right. Not to catch you off guard. I'll wait for your body to come back into your clothing here because she's like, right? But did you know that's called startle reflex? Did you know you can't control it? If you hear a gunshot, you are going to do this. Bang! You're going to drop, duck cover, you're going to look around. But too many people are stopping and dropping on the ground going, I hope he doesn't see me. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm telling you what you're going to do if we don't give you a plan. Here's what you should do. If you hear a gunshot, bang! Look around. It came from there. Which way should you run? That way. Don't run that way. Don't go, was that a gunshot? You think I'm kidding? Numerous victims have been wounded or killed because throngs of kids ran by them yelling, shooter! Shooter! Run! And as they ran by, the person they ran by did this. What? Where? I'm being serious. If 25 people go running by you yelling shooter, you probably should be running. It's not your job to see unless you think you're ready to take them on, which we'll talk about that in a second. But this is the #1 survival tactic. By the way, when you're running, don't run in a straight line. Please. Run like Phoebe on Friends. Look like a dork. I don't care. We'll laugh about it later. Man, you look like such a dork when you were running from that guy. Woo! I know, right? Who cares? Why are we going to run in a straight line? Bullets travel in a straight line. In the Parkland shooting, a group of students huddled together. About 8 of them, 9 of them ran from the shooter in the hallway. Out of that whole group running, 1 was hit. And she survived. By the way, it didn't matter that it was the AR-15 or a handgun. It doesn't matter. Running is the #1 survival tactic. And as you're running, warn others of impending danger. The power of your voice. The power of your voice is critical. Let people know what's going on. And here's the key, and I'm going to tell your parents I told you this tonight, if you send them. By the way, please send your parents tonight. Call 911. Quit calling your parents. Quit calling your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your aunt, or your uncle. And here's why. If you're running from an active shooter and you just saw him, the cops need to know where he's at because some of your friends are still stuck with him. True? Your parents aren't going to be able to help at all, just so you know. Not one bit. you're calling the wrong people. By the way, call your parents after you run a quarter mile down the road. Because how far can you run? As far as you want. That's it. See, my son asked me 2 months before his shooting. We didn't know, obviously, it was going to happen. He walks up to me, and he's still doing the if-then. Hey, Dad, if this happens, then what do I do? He walks up to me in November of 2006, and he says, Dad, I just had another situation come in my head. Yo, what's up, son? What would I do if I walked into a room, and boom, there's a shooter right there, and he's shooting people? He said, run, Ben. He goes, Dad, how far do you want me to run? And I said, Ben, if you run, and you call me from a 7-Eleven in the state of Idaho, I'm having a good day. True? You think your parents care where you call them from? No. Marysville, Pilchuck, Washington. The shooter is killing people in the cafeteria at his table. And a student in the table next door drops under the table. By the way, he ducks and covers. But then it hits him. I'm watching these people die. If I stay under this table, I'm going to die. So he gets up and he runs. He runs out of the cafeteria, down the hallway, out of the building, across the football field. Do you know where his dad picked him up when they finally called him? Hiding behind a bush in the woods. Do you think his dad cared where he found him? So when you run, you need to know the school, if they've told you for however long, or as adults, your mom or dad, will run to the northwest corner of the football field. No! Run wherever you want, and here's why. School is over. You're done. You want to run to Starbucks? Run to Starbucks. You want to run to Burger King? Go for it. Have it your way. But at the end of the day, do not think that you have to run and stop in school. Does everyone understand that? Side note, it just happened in Parkland. 2 girls running from the shooter are now calling a teacher a murderer. They want him fired. For the wrong reasons. They were running from the shooter, and as they're running, they tell a newspaper reporter they stopped at a classroom to try to get into a classroom to go to lockdown. By the way, great idea, but what? The room was already in lockdown. The teacher had already opened the door, gotten the kids in, shut it, and locked it. They start pounding on the door for him to open it, and he doesn't. By the way, he shouldn't have opened it. Do you know who usually the shooter is in a K-12 shooting in America? A student. Staff is trained not to open the door once it's been locked. The problem wasn't that the staff member wasn't trained, he was. The problem is the students weren't trained, which is what your school is providing you today. You're trained to run and keep running. They stopped because what? They thought, I have to go to a classroom. No, you don't, not if you're that close to the shooter. So when he didn't answer, they finally took off running. By the way, both girls lived. But they're calling him a murderer. This teacher's not a murderer, not even close. So, call 911, please. Now I'll tell you what happened to my son. 2 months after the conversation that I just told you about, I'm driving my patrol car down Highway 16 in Tacoma, Washington. And you have to understand from my perspective, I teach active shooter survival. My SWAT team has pursued these guys. I've seen the carnage. But nothing got me ready for this day. All of a sudden, I hear over my police radio, Pierce County Westside cars, we have shots fired. Foss High School, we have an active shooting. January 3rd, 2007. And my heart sank, because my son is a junior at Foss High School. He was then. I remember feeling really sick, really nauseous, because my son is in that school, and I don't know what's going on. So I take my patrol car to about 100 miles an hour. Lights and siren are flying. I'm about 45 seconds away from the school, and I auto dial my son on the earpiece. My son always keeps his phone on vibrate and silent. Always. He's like his dad. He never keeps it on ring. Side note, if you go into a lockdown, or if you hide in a closet, you better check your cell phone. Because the last thing you need is what? All of a sudden you're quiet, shooter's walking by, and your cell phone ringer goes off. Because this is Thriller. Right? Yeah, that's all they need. Right. They just need something really exciting to go off and draw their attention to. Put your phones on vibrate and silent. Quit leaving them on ringer. 3 rings into the phone ringing, my son picks up, and this is the first thing I hear. That's what I hear. Ben, what are you doing? He says, I'm running, Dad! about 30 seconds. I've got to go. Keep running. All right, Dad. And the last thing I hear him say, right before he hangs up his phone, everybody keep running! It's different when it's your kid. If my son would have told me and kept running and said, Dad, okay, so just, I ran to the Zoomy store at the mall and I bought like $100 worth of clothes on your visa because I'm really stressed out. You need to know, I would have paid it. I couldn't stop hugging my son enough when we got home over the next couple of days. In fact, I was hugging him so much, he was like, okay, Dad, stop with the hugs. I said, shut up, I'll punch you in the face. I love you. Hug me. It's different when it's your own kid. Do you know how these assemblies came about? It came about for my son being a pain in my butt. He asked me so many questions. But Dad, what if the UFO lands? What do we do? Get on board, son. Let's go for a ride. He asked me so many questions. I didn't realize we were preparing to save his life because he had just opened the door where the shooter was killing the student. It happened just like he asked. You guys deserve to know what to do to survive. If it hadn't been for thinking of that story with my son, I would have never done these assemblies. And now we're getting feedback from all over the country. It's your call. By the way, this man's daughter jumped out the window at a bar. As he went home, he talked to her about the assembly. You see, your parents need to have this conversation with you. But did you know that you're the ones that are probably going to lead it? And the funny part is because you're not afraid to talk about it. You're a very daring generation. And we should respect you enough to tell you what to do to survive. This is the #1 tactic if you're not near the shooter, or if you are near the shooter. If you can see the shooter or hear the shooter, run. By the way, if you can't see the shooter, if you can't hear the shooter, if all you hear is lockdown, get into lockdown. It is the #1 life-saving tactic if they are not close. Evacuation, we already talked about. If all of a sudden you need to leave one room to get to another room, your call, totally up to you. If you need to break a window to do it, your call, totally up to you. Side note, do not leave this assembly and go and break a window just to test it. You're only allowed these tactics if what? Life and death. Did you hear about how the shooter got stopped at the hot yoga class? A guy with a weapon opening fire at a hot yoga class, killing numerous people. And who attacks him? This short guy with a vacuum cleaner. You think I'm kidding? He takes a vacuum cleaner and starts hitting the shooter over the head. The shooter's gun jams and he pistol whips the short guy, who then walks away, goes back to the broom closet, finds a broom, and starts beating him again. Until the shooter killed himself. This man is being hailed right now as a hero, and by the way, he is. He didn't want to be a hero, but he is. Evacuation, one more thing, don't pull fire alarms. Some of you are thinking, if I'm running from the bad guy, everybody should be running. You're wrong. If you're running from the bad guy, 99% of you are safe if you're in lockdown. Because the rest of us don't even know why that the shooting is going down, the lockdown is going down. The last thing we want to do is pull a fire alarm and then leave a perfectly safe room and walk into the shooter, which is what happened at Virginia Tech. A professor at Virginia Tech walked 30 of his students into his office, and then he said, I'll be right back. And then he walked down the stairs and turned the corner, and walked right into the shooter, who immediately killed him. Do not leave a perfectly good lockdown room, and certainly do not pull fire alarms. Your administrator told me today you're already changing the way you guys do fire evacuations. That's awesome. When you evacuate, you shouldn't be doing this anymore. You should be doing this. And by the way, you should be thinking, what if? What if we were to take gunfire in this field right now? What should you do? Quick, what should you do? Run! By the way, you can duck, cover, assess, but you better move. You better move. Because at one shooting, a teacher went back for a 5th grade girl, a little girl that hunkered down on the ground. And they were in an open field, and everyone was doing well as long as they were moving. And the teacher runs back to this little girl who's crying. She hurries over her and she just holds her. And she was killed. She stopped moving. Your best chance for survival if someone is trying to shoot at you is run and don't stop. By the way, it's going to be the fastest you've ever ran in your life, just so you know. For the staff in this room, some of us that are older, you won't be able to move the next day. But I don't care. You'll be alive. Crawling. Watch. Bang! Drop to the ground. If I drop to the ground right now and go to a crawling position, did you know all those people in the back can't see me? By the way, neither can you in the front row. Why? If you're out of the shooter's eyesight, they're not going to just look for you. Who are they looking for? The easiest, softest targets. Don't be that target. Did you know that at this shooting, a shooter opens fire in the auditorium and the kids dove behind between the seats? And a young girl, by the way, they dropped up cover, assessed, and they started crawling. They were crawling towards exits, and then suddenly the shooter's gun jams, and a girl stands up. A student stands up and goes, "His gun's jammed! He's reloading! Run now!" And dozens of kids stood up and ran out of that auditorium. She saved their lives with the power of her voice. That's it. She knew something was wrong. He didn't have an opportunity anymore. At the bar in Thousand Oaks in California, did you know that they started breaking the windows breaking the windows open with the stools when the shooter was reloading? There was a lull in the gunfire. They took advantage of the gap. Crawling works great. If I drop to the ground and crawl, he's not looking for me. He's looking for this person, the one that freezes. Please, don't let it be you. Hiding. It's the activity of keeping something secret, but it works better if the person doesn't see you hiding. So right now, if I were to go behind this curtain, am I hiding? Yes or no? No, it was a trick question. You just saw me doing it. It's not hiding if what? If the shooter saw me go behind that curtain, did he just see me? So he's going to shoot through the curtain. This is hiding. Watch. Hold on a second. Sir. Right there. Eagles shirt. Yes, come on up, please. Last name? What is it? Aiken? Sir, could you do me a favor if you would, please? Mr. Aiken, I'm going to look forward here. And I'm going to start counting to 10. And all I need you to do is hide anywhere that you want in this room. Anywhere you want. Here's the key. I'm going to count to 10. When I get done, I'm going to turn around. What I don't need the rest of you to do is, please don't go, "He's up there." Like you want someone doing that to an active shooter. He's up there. You want him, not me. Okay? Seriously? What I need you to do is, when I turn around, I need you all to just stare at me. Just mad dog me. Okay? But keep his location secret, because I'm going to try. 10 seconds. Anywhere you want. Got it? Here we go. 1 1,000. 2 1,000. 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000, 6 1,000, 7 1,000, 8 1,000, 9 1,000, and 10. You guys look so guilty right now. It's unbelievable. Where are my photographers? Do you guys get the picture of this? The guiltiest student body that ever lived. Staying over here because, see, human nature says you start on one side. You guys gotta know about human nature. It's okay. It's not what they feel. She's curling up the wall here. This sucks. All right, Mr. Aiken, where you at? Where'd you go? Where's he at? Oh, no, it's okay. You can come up. Oh, shoot. Seriously? Were you under the police? Give him a hand. Holy moly. By the way, this tactic has been used by hundreds of people. butchers. They're going to find the softest, easiest victim. Remember that hiding doesn't mean bulletproof. If I hide behind that curtain and a bullet comes through it, I'm still hit. Bulletproof is concrete, brick. This is not bulletproof. Okay? A wall, concrete wall, is bulletproof, not this. Duck and cover. You need to know that duck and cover has been taught to you and to us as adults since the 1950s. It was meant for the earthquake and the atomic bomb. Watch. Did you know that when you get under something, it's meant to protect you from a vertical falling object? Which direction does a bullet travel? Horizontal. We taught you this, we taught us this, and guess what? It is the number one common denominator for fatalities. People that duck and cover near the shooter, greater chance of dying. If you go, bang! Oh, I hope he doesn't see me, I hope he doesn't see me, I hope he doesn't see me. You need to know that your chances of survival just went down the toilet. They're the victim you're looking for, the one that does nothing. You need to know that people that run from a shooter stand a greater chance of surviving. Period. 32 people killed in Columbine. 99% of them were killed in this position, duck and cover. At Virginia Tech, excuse me. Columbine, 13 dead, 10 were killed in this position. And we put them there. You've got to choose. It's your toolkit. If you duck and cover, bang! Duck and cover, look around, but get the heck out of there. Sorry. Okay? And lastly, playing dead, you need to know that this one's also been used by numerous people. By the way, one of the greatest and most unbelievable stories is Amy Haas from Virginia Tech. Amy was laying on the ground. By the way, her friends around her had been shot. Many of them were dead. And she's laying on the ground, but the shooter doesn't know. The whole time he's been shooting people in all 5 classrooms. She's been on the phone with 911. She's laying on her phone and she's been whispering the communication, the location of the shooter. And suddenly she hears him coming back in her classroom because he now knows law enforcement has breached. They're coming for him. He's trying to find whatever last victims he can. She's playing dead. She's been wounded. She whispers to the dispatcher, I think he's coming back in. And the dispatcher says, okay, be quiet. So she plays dead. The shooter walks right by her. She tells us later she feels him walk right by her. She hears him walk around the room, and then suddenly she hears a gunshot and the crumpling of a body. She waits a few seconds and then she whispers to the dispatcher, I think he just shot himself. And the dispatcher says, can you check? And she goes, no. By the way, good for her. It's her toolkit, right? Why would you lift your head? What if he hadn't been dead? And she went, okay, hold on. Yeah, he's alive. Oh, it sucked. Unbelievable story of will. You need to know that there's no guarantee it's going to work, and the reason is startle reflex can scare some of you into jerking. And then lastly, fighting. Any contest or struggle. You know, it's interesting to me. One of the number one forms of resolution to an active shooter in America in K-12 is this. The students, the staff, tackling the gunman. By the way, these are people, some of them, that have no fighting skills at all. They just tackle the gunman. Who stopped the gunman in Spokane? Freeman High School. Custodian. See, everyone here wants you to survive. But you have got to be part of the plan. The days of 200 eyes watching over 1,000 students, those days are over. 1,000 eyes plus 200 eyes, we all need to be watching out for each other. You guys need to own what's happening because you've got the solution. We need you to participate in that solution by letting us know. Fighting is critical, but here's the interesting part. They did a study on 6th through 12th graders in America, USA Today did years ago, and they asked you guys, why do you fight? It was really amazing. I thought it was hilarious. Why do you fight? First name, sir, with the sweatshirt right here. What is it? Marshall, come on up, please. Yeah, the one check right there. You know what? Take the ball. In fact, ma'am, what's your first name? Yes. Come on down too. Just so you know, first name was Marshall. Pleased to meet you, Marshall. Stay right there. First name? Isaac, over here, my side. First name? Evan? Anastasia. Anastasia? You're on my side. So Anastasia is over here. Isaac. Okay? Me, Anastasia, and Isaac are over here. They're over there. Marshall and Evan. Okay? And we're sitting here, we're talking, and Anastasia, number one reason for fighting in America in K-12 schools. He said, she said. Right. Are you kidding me? He said that? Oh. What's up, man? So Anastasia told me, and Susie told Sally, Sally told Cheryl, Cheryl told Christy. You called her a big. What's up with that? By the way, he's going, who the heck is Susie? Number one reason. Number two reason. Me and Isaac are sitting here, and Isaac goes, okay, man, check it out, man. The dude's looking at you. Come here, well, you're looking at me too. Should I kick your butt first? I mean, are you serious? Number two reason. Mad dogging and mean mugging. Are you kidding me? You're going to get in a fight because someone looked at you? I just turned 59 years old this last August. If I catch you looking at me, I'm going to pose. How you doing, huh? 5 hours. Seriously? When you get my age, you're going to pray that people look at you. But no, you guys want to fight about it? Seriously? And then do they really want to fight? Because this is what it looks like. Yeah, that's right, man. By the way, ever notice your friend that pointed it out? He didn't say this. Yo, Isaac, that dude's looking at you, man. I got your back. They didn't do this, they did this. Check it out, Isaac. That dude's looking at you, man. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? That, right? Interesting, isn't it? My friend didn't want to stop this fight. So all of a sudden he says he's looking, and I'm like, oh, you got a problem? By the way, that's what their friends do. And then they all start calling you guys to come in, and then of course you do this. Stop recording, baby. Yeah. So I'm about to fight because the guy looked at me. Wow. It's just so weird. He goes to me, yo, Jesus, man, that dude's looking at you. He's looking at you. Man, if I were him, I'd be looking at me too. That's what I'm talking about. Shake your leg. Yeah. Are you serious? No, it gets worse, because then if they're looking at you, they do what? Oh, you want some of this one? They start their ritual. And then they do the infamous chest bump ritual. Have you seen this one? You want some of this? Come on, let's go. Come on. Right? Right, let me get this right. You wanted to fight him so bad, you thought you would start by rubbing his chest. Is that right? Seriously? On the inside, that's not what they're saying. On the outside, they're trying to puff up for you. But on the inside, it's like you can take a microphone and put it in their brain. This is what you hear. Where's the teacher, man? Teacher when you meet her. What do you eat for a living, man? You kidding me? And then when the teacher shows up, hey, what are you guys doing? Glad she showed up, man. I'll mess you up. Are you serious? Is this really what you want to fight about? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I served 33 years in the streets. I've seen some of the most horrific things you can imagine. And some you can't. You want to fight for something? Fight for your life. Fight for school safety. Fight for your friends. But seriously, stop fighting because someone looked at you. Or he said, she said. You really want to take a stand against violence in schools? We need your help. We, the adults, don't have the ability and the power that you have. If you know if someone's bringing a gun to school, we need to know now. You know if someone's plotting a school shooting plot, we need to know now, not afterwards. You talking to CNN didn't help me one bit. It's my kid that was killed. Stop fighting for stupid things like this. If you're going to fight for something, make it worthwhile. Fight for your life, by the way. Your parents want to see you at the end of the day. Fight to survive. By the way, give these people a hand, please. That's a picture of the happiest mother in the world. Her daughter was in an active shooting. She drove around and found her walking alongside the road. Do you think she cared where she found her? No. She found her alive. So please, tell a teacher or someone in the school school brought a weapon. Tell a teacher if someone is talking about attacking this school or any other school. And tell a teacher before it happens so no one gets hurt. You've got to be a true friend. As you leave this room today, one more thing I'm going to warn you, I'm going to caution you. Don't you dare leave this assembly and joke about making a threat against the school or any other school. Not even joking. Because if your friends report it, those officers in the back will absolutely arrest you for a Class C felony in the state of Washington for threats to bomb or shoot schools. This isn't a joking matter. Your school district, by the way, your superintendent, your school board authorizing this training, I think is very brave to give you the tools to survive. We're recognizing you for what you are, young adults. Please take advantage of this. When you go back, talk to your staff, your teachers, and talk about what your plan would be in your room. Come up with some plans. At the end of the day, we just need you to live. And the question is, what's the least you're willing to do? I want to thank the superintendent. I want to thank, by the way, the staff. Thank you so much for giving me this time with your students. God bless you. Have a safe holiday season. Thank you so much. Please stay seated. Please stay seated. Please stay seated. Thank you.
Okay, please join me in one more round of applause for Mr. Jesus. Okay, students and staff, great job. West Valley High School students, I'd ask you to please remain seated. Spokane Valley High School students, you're free to go.